It's always fun to see where everyone is, as we have a collection of people from many different states and many parts of the country. So we see Fort Lauderdale, Brooklyn, Connecticut, Westport. Mary Ellen, how are you? Short Hills, Westchester, Queens, Houston, Virginia. Always got to give love to New York City.
Nashville.
Laguna Beach.
Nashville in here.
Chicago, Fort Lauderdale. Westchester back in the house. Planet Long Island, what's up, guys? Naples. All right, we'll give one more minute and we'll get started. Jess, my favorite words for you, get rid of that phone.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
All right, let's get started. So good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Chirag Shah. I'm the founder of Chirag Shah Coaching. I realized last week someone literally wrote in the chat, hey, can you recommend a good coach? So that means I did a bad job of introducing myself, my team, and who we are and what we do. I was a former director of coaching and training at Compass, and now I have my own coaching company that's not directly affiliated with Compass, that we only coach Compass agents. So Rachel Ratner is my director of brand and community experience. I have my team member Andrew here, and it's because of them great things like this are possible. So Agent Talk is our weekly segment where we bring the best agents of Compass and share what they're doing so you can do it too. So our goal is to help inspire people to do something great. And Jess, I'm going to introduce her. Jess is not only a client, but more importantly, a personal friend. And the way we got connected was really interesting. And if I could sum up Jess is in just like a quick little story, is she's extremely focused, right? Like she's very clear as to what her goal is. And I remember when I worked at Compass, her and I were driving to a broker open house in Greenwich. You know, her phone's ringing, there are texts coming in, someone calls to set up an appointment. She sets up the appointment for that evening very promptly. And she goes, go on my phone. I said, okay, hit the button. She goes, pull up this name. She goes, I pulled up the name. I'm like, what do you want me to do? Please tell this person that I have to cancel my date with them this evening because I have a showing. And that just sums up Jess, right? Like she wears her heart on her sleeve, dog mom, proud team leader, but somebody who's really all in for their clients. So Jess, just introduce yourself and where you are and what you do.
I'm Jess Sigmund. I am in Westchester in Connecticut, and that is a funny story, and I knew you were going to share it. I'm definitely driven, focused, so not so much, but focused on my goals. I'd say I have a little bit of ADD, but otherwise I'm focused on my goals. Have a team that's awesome, and I'm happy to be here.
And you're a proud dog mom. You can't leave. There's no conversation with her dog Judge. So if you follow her online, you'll see her dog is like the center of her universe. So very human in that aspect. So let's start all in the beginning, right? Like we got connected, but how did you reach out to me and what made you do it before you got to Compass?
So I was at another brokerage and I wasn't really happy there. And I started following Chirag on social media, and I had seen Compass start to come on the MLS. So like most of us, we like stalk the MLS every morning and night. And I would start to see a lot more deals coming on with Compass and just looking through them and looking through the agents. And I was like, looks like such a cool company. Like their image, their way they do their pictures, their marketing, everything was so catchy to me. So started following Chirag, and he was so positive, just always kind of motivating people. And like, I just loved the vibe. And I knew I wasn't happy where I was. So I messaged Chirag on Instagram and asked him if he would get a cup of coffee with me, I think it was. And then he was like, sure. And we did. We ended up getting coffee, and I told him, you know, I was unhappy where I was at my brokerage, and kind of told him what was going on. And he was like, well, come to Compass. Like, I think it's the perfect place for you. And it took me a little while because it was scary, like everybody when they're about to leave a former brokerage. But finally I did it, and it was the best decision ever.
So when you talk about change, right, and I love digging into this with people, right? There's a great quote. It's like, people aren't afraid of change. People are afraid of the transition. Because you literally came here and to start over, right? That year before you came to Compass was the best financial year of your career up until now, right? Like, what were you afraid of during that transition? And like, how did you kind of work through that?
It was really scary. I was on a team in Westchester that was, you know, providing me with leads and really helping me learn the business and how to grow. And I was like, I'm going to leave this team and start over and have no, source of what's going to happen. I just didn't know if I was going to fail or if I was going to do well. And I just knew I wasn't happy where I was. And I never had been completely motivated by staying in a situation just for money or just, for the wrong reasons. So I figured it was a risk worth taking for my happiness.
So you chose your happiness, but giving up leads, right? For so many people, the idea of doing that is like, I can't do this on my own, right? So you got to Compass, right? You gave up all your leads. And I remember you grilling me like, this better work. I have no leads. What am I going to do? Like, how did you start? Like, what was your 0 to 1? And like, what was really your mindset, which still holds true today about learning, being a sponge, and kind of starting to build your own business?
Yeah, I remember being so scared. I think you had like a referral or something. You're like, I can give you this one deal and that will help cover you for like 2 or 3 months or something. Because it's scary to give up, your income and, so when I got on, I guess I just surrounded myself.
What happened?
Oops, somebody needs to mute themselves. Go on.
Oh, okay. So I just surrounded myself with, I did a lot of research and surrounded myself with the top agents that I could, which is fairly super easy at Compass because there's so many great agents. And I did my first deal with the number one agent in Westchester and just kind of was a sponge. I just listened. And anytime somebody needed a favor, anytime somebody needed help with a showing, anytime someone needed open house or I could accompany them, I just took advantage of any opportunity I had, was able to be around, really, really successful agents. And that's what I did. I surrounded myself with awesome mentors and just listened and just kept listening. And little by little, I kept getting little opportunities.
So let's go into that, right? Because most people show up somewhere, right? So you've given up your leads. You're now an individual agent. You officially, because someone was giving you leads, have no source of income, and your mindset said that I should learn as much as I can. And I know you never asked anyone money for a showing. You just asked, how can you help?
Yes, definitely. People would offer money, but I was getting so much value in what I was doing. It felt like I was being paid anyways. Just being around agents that figured out how to do it and listening to them and watching their mannerisms and watching what they were doing and how they emailed and how they spoke to their clients. I just kept listening.
So let's dig into that more, right? That's like kind of like what I always talk about, that marathon mindset, right? Like most agents in real estate run this, I call it the 100-yard dash, right? You run the race, it's December, you get a new business plan, you go back to the starting line. But you really thought about this like, okay, this is my career, this is my life. I need to learn as much as I can. And that concept is very hard for a lot of agents to adopt, right? Like you felt that experience is more important than money for the showings. Why?
Because I was never going to be a good agent without learning and without knowing how to work with buyers and sellers. And, real estate is, you're constantly having to learn. Not even the top agents know it all. So for me, it was just like, the school really wasn't how I learned, it was, or taking, getting the license. It was more about the experience. And that's how it was always for me. It was never about going to school or, getting a degree. It was more about being active and learning and hands-on.
Now, if you say you took the money, right, do you think that would have changed your relationship in the way that these people showed up for you, their willingness to want to help you, and ultimately what you got out of it?
Definitely. I've built such good relationships with so many incredible leaders in this industry and really just showed them loyalty and showed them that I would be there. And every single time they called for a help or for a favor, I did it. And it just worked so much in my favor at the end. And that's not what I was looking for, but it definitely paid off.
But you also learned, right, how to sell much more high-end homes than you normally started with, right? Because you started at, what would you say your average price point was before you came to Compass and roughly where you are now?
Probably like 400 to 500. And now I can do, 1 to 2 million. I do everything, but yes, I definitely was like, how am I ever going to get into the luxury market, or how am I ever going to know? And I think just kind of learning with these, mentors and people that were willing to help me taught me that, like, most of the time, the people in these higher end markets know more than me, and like just listening to them and making sure that I'm not quick to think that I know more than them, because I don't. I just have to focus on what I was good at during that.
So in going through this journey, right? Like you started off as an individual agent, right? This is fun. This is like the Jet Sigmund story. And going through as an individual agent, then you made the shift, right? Like what made you want to have a team?
I didn't know I wanted a team. I was actually thinking about joining a team, and Jason Wilson, who is our manager and an awesome leader, he stopped me from joining a team. And he was like, "You're on your way to getting your own team." And I never thought like that. I was, just always kind of thinking that I should join someone else. And then one of my team members that's on this call reached out and asked if she could join. And I was like, "Join what?" I didn't, and she was like, "Join you." And we just grew together, and it just kind of really happened naturally. I always had a vision to be an entrepreneur, and I always wanted to be, I'm always business savvy and have big dreams, but I wasn't there yet. It happened really quickly, and just luckily, because people kind of came to me, and we worked together.
As they say, luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity, right? And even in doing this, right now, there's a mind shift, right? There's like, wait, I know I just need to help people buy and sell real estate, but now people view me as a leader, and there's a lot of additional responsibilities that come with it, right? So I find that you have a very unique view in the way that you like to run your team, and really like what would I say, the responsibility you have to them, right? So it started with Jaliska. How many people are there now?
We have 7. Yeah, it's fun.
So how has that changed, right? For people sitting here listening, right? Like how many people can think that they're not a leader but really are, right? Like I want you to share like what your thought process was around this, because I remember having many conversations with you about this. Like, are you sure? And like in full transparency, you weren't sure about this, right? You were like, this is a mistake. What am I going to give these people? Because you remembered your experience on the team and like what your expectations were. So what are your expectations of yourself as a leader to other people?
These people, my team counts on me, and I want to, do everything I can to watch them succeed. And I took all of the experiences, good and bad, have helped me get to where I am. So being on a not so great team, or being where I was before, learning all the things I didn't like about that team or didn't like about team leaders or whatever, I brought that to me and decided I would never want to do any of those things, So I think that taking the amazing things that my old team offered me and keeping those, it was a good balance. And my expectations, I just want one day to everybody to go off and start their own team if they want to, or one day stay with me forever, just for us to continue to grow.
So you view your kids, it's kind of like the mentality a parent has, right? Like they want their kids to do better than them and support whatever they need.
Yes, of course. I'm so thankful to have my team.
So yesterday on our coaching call, right, we talked about culture and values, right? And, the one thing for a lot of you, I know I can see your names on here, personally know Jess, our values are very much like this, right? Like right is right, wrong and wrong. And you're very much the activist in the sense that you're willing to fight and stand up for people. I want you to share like your 3 values, right? And like what we talked about is culture really is built on values, right? And like the more your team members and people around you know it, the easier it is for them to be. So your 3 values that you shared with me are integrity, honesty, and consistency, right? So like when you think about that and the way that it shows up for your team and everyone else, like what does integrity mean to you?
We went through this yesterday, and I was answering all the wrong answers, and you were like, "That's not integrity." Integrity is being who I am when no one's watching, or offering, nothing changes. My loyalty, all that stays the same. So I guess the definition of integrity is being who you are when no one's looking. You're not doing it for something. You're doing it because you want to.
And like and if you see like her team members are on here, right? And identifying these things, I think I encourage everyone, right, to look in at their own values and how they show up for people. But look, it shows up one way for you being with your team member, but it also the same value shows up with your clients. So how does that work show up like actually when you work with people versus maybe when you're helping Jaliska with something? What's the difference in the two for you?
Yeah, so we were talking about this yesterday. It's like, our job as agents is to represent our clients, and that, is that straightforward. Do everything possible to follow our fiduciary duties and be the best advocate we can for our clients. And that doesn't change if it's, a team member putting an offer on this house, and that's where it gets really hard, because like if you have 10 offers and one of them's your team member, as much as you want to support them, at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters is your client. And it's staying really focused on what's important and what, you've committed to, and doing the right thing.
See that, and that's very clear in anyone's interactions with you, right? Like, and now honesty, right? Like what we talked about was interesting, and I think it's good for everyone to hear is how value, like honesty. It could mean one thing to me, one thing to you. It could mean another thing to Kimberly J and another thing to Susie, right? And when you look at honesty, how does that show up for the way you work with your team members and the way you also want them to work with your clients?
Yeah, it's really simple for me. It's like you said, really black and white. Like you just have to be honest. And that's like all I want to be around and all I want to keep in my circle. And it doesn't shift, at all. If there's something little that, you can pass by on an inspection and not mention, like that's not how I work. And I feel like I've gotten to where I am because I've been really, really honest. And sometimes honesty doesn't, is hard, and it causes conflicts with clients, but you have to do it, and I hope to continue to always do it.
And the third one is consistency, right? I think that's my favorite one out of these, right? What does consistency mean to you in terms of goals? Like, how do you view this? You had a very good answer for this yesterday.
uh, Consistency is so important to me, and I think like ever since I was a kid, my biggest compliment always was that I was always consistent with whatever I did, like with my values, with whatever, just being consistent. And with work, I mean, this is a business where you have to be consistent, like especially with your marketing, or especially with how you are treating your clients or your work ethic. Like if you lose any of that, like this is business, there's thousands of agents. And so staying consistent is really, really, really important, which is probably why I thrive so much in this, because I love to be consistent and I love to keep consistency around me.
I'll quote you now. You said yesterday, consistency has no finish lines, right? It's a very a quotable moment, right? So it's like, if you're really consistent, do you ever stop doing something?
Never.
Never. Right? So how does your day to day, right? You've looked different now as a team lead than when you're an individual agent.
I make myself more available to make sure that I'm always answering questions, or none of my agents ever feel stuck or like they don't know a question, because that's what I'm here for, is to try to help. And that's what was really valuable to me when I was a new agent. I remember when I first joined, I moved here from Canada and I had gone through a divorce, and I was like, what am I doing? And I just became an agent. And like, how do you just become an agent? If you don't join a team and you don't know, you kind of just get thrown into like an industry that you really have no idea what you're doing. And I remember I was trying to sell a friend a house. It was like a $400,000 or $500,000 house. And I was like, that's so much money. Like, I can't believe he's trusting me to help when I really didn't know what I was doing. So I think the Compass, team thing is so valuable, because like, you don't have to be lost anymore, and you don't have to not know what you're doing. That's why my team can always call me, and anything that I don't know, I can call my mentor, or the people, the Jason Wilsons or Brian Miltons, or all the people that have been really important to me to get an answer, because we don't have to know everything. And I think that's where you mess up, is when you think you do.
It's amazing. And now an accolade, right? Like, what percentage did you grow your business?
Like 300% or so, a lot. It was pretty fun.
A lot. She's so focused on the clients, her values, building culture. The numbers are, Brian, she is an amazing partner in the sense that the way that you guys work together. So what helped catapult your business 300%?
Brian, that definitely helps. Biggest biggest and best decision I ever made was for my business. And when Brian came on, I was doing no business. We just were beginning of COVID, sitting in a lake house, like, hey, we should like do some work together. And I was like, nothing, I wasn't doing any deals. And he jumped on and started helping me little by little. And he has so many strengths in all of my weaknesses and vice versa. And we just started really slow together. And like, we just kept growing and kept growing. And because of Brian, he takes away all the things that I'm not good at, and I'm able to focus on all the things I'm really good at. So he's a huge part of why the team has grown and I've grown.
Well, I can say this because I know you very well. You're definitely a type A control freak. How did you learn to let go?
Yeah. Brian is like the most patient and gets me person in the world. So I think he just like doesn't answer when it's not necessary. And like,
all right, hold on. Who is Brian and what does he do? Right.
His partner, and he's the team lead with me. He handles like all the back end of the team, answers all the calls when I'm not free, helps us with listings, helps us with paperwork, helps us with everything. He's the person I can vent to. He's my other half in the business. So,
got it. So in doing this, right? So how'd you grow 300%, right? Like you came here as an individual operator, you built out a team, you're a sponge to learn around people. Like I know the Compass network and like what are like tactical steps that people could think through that are hearing this, that we're very much in a similar place, right? Like how do you how would you share people start to grow? Like what's the path? And Betsy wants to know like what catapulted your business 300%?
I think really, first of all, I think timing in this business is really important, because I think you have to start somewhere and you have to understand that like, you get some leads and then those leads turn into referrals and those leads turn into sellers, and it's really putting in the time. And I think when you get to like 4 or 5 years and you're still doing it and you're still being consistent, you'll start to see a change in your business. I think COVID for sure 100% helped me. And I did, I was alone and single and I just had my dog and we were on lockdown, and I did a lot of happy hours, a lot of networking with Compass agents. I didn't really have anything else to do. And it was kind of getting super depressing. I was, just locked in this apartment and drinking wine at 12 every day was really the right thing to do. So I just made a lot of friends and I met a lot of really special people. And that's what's so cool about Compass is if you use the network and if you, you make friends with amazing people, the opportunities are endless. And that's just a bonus that comes out with having awesome friends as well.
So that's one way you did it too. Your team members helped too. Like everyone wants to know, where did you find these people?
The people or the clients?
Yeah, the people no, not the clients, the people on your team.
You helped a lot. You definitely you're the connector for sure. So if you know Chirag, you know that he likes to connect whoever he thinks is good for each other. So it really just grew organically. I don't, you kind of recommended somebody or I get really a lot of questions on social media, like new agents that are thinking about getting into the business and follow me, which is really cool. And I'll get a message like, hey, would you mind like talking about Compass or talking about real estate? And I really try to always make myself available, because like, I remember being like, beginning of this business and not knowing what I was going to do and how I was going to pay my rent or figure this out. So I try to make myself super available to anybody that, takes the chance to talk or reach out to me.
So social media is a big thing. Someone asked, Chirag, do you have a Brian in Naples? I need a Brian too. Yes, we've helped, I think, 15 people staff positions in the last like 3.5 months. So I joke around, Jess, that we should be a hiring staffing agency. And no, we're not doing it. It's just something we do for our clients. It's just an added bonus. But there are Brian's everywhere, right? Like Brian's a unique person, but it's just really opening your mind, right? Like if you're going to hire someone, what would you say, like, how ready do you have to be to let go, right? Because if you brought him in and you didn't let go, what would that have been like?
Yeah, I think that bringing Brian in, we started so slow together. Like I was like, I suck at or putting my contacts in. I was like, can I like pay you to do that? And he was like, sure. And then like we did that, and he like completed that task in like 5 seconds, and I was like, I haven't done it in 4 years. And then like we went on to the next task, and then I just realized that like he could do everything, and like we just kept growing together. But we started really slow, and we started to figure each other out, like what I needed and what he needed, and I made him a big part of my business, and I want to see him be super successful. And I think when you focus on like the numbers and like not giving away, like we always talk about the abundance and scarcity mindset, and I'm obsessed with that mindset. Like you have to give a lot away, and you have to be able to want other people to succeed as much as you do. Like I could have an amazing year and people like do the calculations, they're like, you're probably rich, and I'm like, no, I'm really not. Like I give so much away, as much as I can. I put money into marketing or money into whatever, everything I can.
Yeah, Jess is like, literally picture her as like a real estate Statue of Liberty, right? Give me your cold, tired, and so on and so forth, right? She gives to charity, she gives back to her community, she gives back to people, right? And so even as people are going through this journey, right, what are some of the biggest mistakes you'd make, and would you learn from them that you could share with other people?
I think biggest mistakes, I guess, sticking where I was unhappy for too long. I think being around good people is really important. And if you're on a team, or if you're, a team leader and you have somebody on your team that's not, in line with what's important to you, make a quick decision. Or if you are on a team and you're not in line with how your team leader is acting, make a quick decision. I think that we're running businesses here, yours and team leaders. So you have to do what's best for you, and be, open to learning and opening to listening, and less ego all the time, for sure.
So open your mind, right? If you're a team leader, what you're saying is get really present. I'll summarize in words. It's like, get really clear on your values and the culture you're building, right? Like what happens in your experience if people are out of line with your culture, or sometimes you just need to have a conversation, like what is really that big connection? Because I know over the last month, it's something we spent a lot of time talking about. How do we build the right culture? How do we share the culture with people in a way that they actually understand what's important to you and what those words actually mean? Because they're more than words.
Yeah, and I think that not everybody has to be the right fit. Doesn't mean you can't be friends. It doesn't mean you can't, do deals together, but doesn't mean you have to be like the right fit for everything. So I think that for me, I really learned that values were more important than money. And so like when I thought about bringing on team members, and when I kept starting to grow and get bigger, and more people kept asking me, and I'm like, I'm doing the math in my head, and I'm like, oh, I could, make a little bit more money on more team members. But that wasn't what it's about. To me, it's about the culture of my team, and that we're all in a group message. And like before I go to bed last night, we were all messaging, someone got an AO, or someone got in contract, or someone got 2 listings, and we were just like hyping each other up, and it's the best feeling. And if one person isn't in line with that, the whole thing kind of it doesn't work. Just doesn't work, from my experience.
Yeah, and I know you've made transitions and everything else, right? So what would you say the biggest benefit you've got out of coaching would be?
I'm quick to like be defensive, is what you always tell me. So thinking things through more, and definitely learning how to work with different personalities and different sellers and different buyers. And I definitely give too much to my clients, and then I get into a position where I'm like, I'm no longer a realtor, I'm a driver, I'm a, whatever I am.
The Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, so I've learned to have a lot more boundaries, definitely from you helping be like, what did you do? Why would you do that? So that's been helpful.
And in terms of like, how do you grow, right? Like, because continuing to grow, right? Like, you're still as humble as the day I met you, right? You still continue to grow, even though can be very defensive. You still are open to change, right? So like for people that continue to change, like, look, like a lot of people I see hit plateaus, right? When you hit a plateau or you feel like you get stuck, what stops you just from staying in the same place versus actually changing, right? Because, like we talked about, people don't fear change, people fear the transition. And every time you're like, do you know what it's going to take me to actually do that with somebody? And I'm like, I don't care, right? So how does that work for you, and how can people start thinking about that,
I think you have
not getting stuck?
Yeah, I think you have to be a risk taker, and I definitely not somebody who likes comfort. I prefer change and prefer taking risks and putting myself in hard situations all the time. So I think that you know you just have to keep taking risks and stay out of your comfort zone. And I think a lot of this goes back to my old brokerage or where I used to work. It was very like it wasn't evolving, and that's what was so cool about Compass. And I was talking to somebody yesterday on a call who was asking me like, what would you ask Compass to do or change if you, and I was like, nothing. Every time I think about something that I would want them to change, they're already on it. And that's what's so cool about this company and our leadership. And Robert and Rory and Jason Wilson and all of you guys, they're always evolving and always on to the next thing that can make this better.
Just ongoing. So you kind of mirror what they do at Compass.
Yeah, I try.
You do. So if anyone else has any questions, drop them in the chat box, right? So I want to summarize some of the learnings that we shared today, right? Obviously, consistency has no finish line. That's like one of my favorite quotes ever, right? Be a sponge, right? Experience is more valuable than money. The other thing we should talk about before we end today is compensating your team members fairly, right? Like that's something that's very important to you.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
I've always been the type of person, probably not always, that's probably a lie, but I've evolved to be a person to, if I have an opportunity and I'm not away and I hold on to it, I might lose that opportunity. So why not bring on one of my team members to help me with it? Like this weekend, I was in Ohio and on my team stepped up and took out a bigger client for me, and we shared him 50-50. And just because she was there and she showed up, and so now hopefully we'll end up getting a deal together, but I wouldn't have had that without her. So I think that you have to give and you have to be fair. And I just think giving people the opportunity to do well is only going to bring more monetary value for us in the long run.
So for all the team leaders that always ask, like, how do I get my team members to say this? That's the perfect example, right? We have a few more minutes for more questions. We're going to drop a quick survey in. If you are currently our client, you do not need to answer this. And we appreciate everyone that said yes last week. There are a lot of you. In terms of what are the challenges of being a team leader?
For me, the challenges are, I hate when my team gets stressed out or isn't making money, or, I want everyone to do so well. And I know, like, when I'm practical and in my head, that it takes time, so I have to be able to help slow them down and just understand the big picture and investing in themselves and not thinking that this is an instant gratification job, because those type of agents, for my opinion, don't end up doing as well because it's not instant. If you're just trying to get to the next deal and the next sale, that's not going to get you to be a successful, from what I see the most successful brokers doing, that's not what they're doing.
So for people who are transitioning from that 500,000 to that $1 million plus range, what advice do you give them on how to get into the luxury market? Everyone always asks that question, right? Like, how do I do it?
I feel like I don't even know, even though I guess I'm sort of in it. Just every scenario is different. And what I do, definitely what I'll do it, is I bring on people with me all the time. I'd rather bring on my mentor, who is a huge agent here, and ask him like, hey, can you split this listing with me? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to get it 50% of it with him and 0 probably without him until I'm ready. So I bring him on often. And a lot of the times I'm like, oh, thank God he was here, and it's not about like not being confident enough. It's that I still am learning, and I think that just continuing to know that I don't know everything is really important.
So again, you choose experience over monetary gain.
Yeah.
The question is, do you have a weekly team meeting to keep people motivated, or are your team members already striving to be better every day?
We have a weekly team meeting and we're really consistent with it. Brian will yell at us if we want to miss it, even me. So he stays structured. We meet once a week, Zoom, Wednesday at 5 or whatever. And we bring what Brian and I have been doing is we bring on a guest every week to our team meetings, whether it's an appraiser, a loan officer, a tax person. We bring somebody on every week to just teach and tell us like what their opinion is. And that's been really helpful because we get to learn. And then the stuff that you'll have questions on, like the taxes, which are also crazy, or appraisals or loans, the difference between a brokerage and a bank. They spend like 15 minutes or 20 minutes and they teach us. So that's been really cool with our team meetings. And we do like, we're going to do once a month, going out and drinking and having dinner together and just hanging out.
So those 3 words, right? Integrity, honesty, consistency, the way that you have your team meetings, the way you bring in learning, the way that you celebrate, whether you realize it or not, that's culture, right? It's like I don't know if you really realize it, but you have built an unbelievable culture of inclusion, one of belonging, one of abundance, one of growth, one of contribution. So like, you should be so proud of yourself. I know your dad's on the call today. So, you should be incredibly proud of your daughter for what she's accomplished, how far she's come. And, just I on behalf of myself and everyone else here, just, thank you for being a yes. Thank you for always being positive. I know from like literally driving your cleaning lady places so that she has extra work in the time that you have. You do so much for everyone around you. So, I want to just acknowledge that and say thank you. And, you've made the world of everyone around you a better place. So, thank you guys all for tuning in. We have a couple more minutes if you have any more questions. And Jess, anything else you want to share? Parting words of wisdom?
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. I love coming on to this. I love that you do this. I think it's so awesome that you bring on different agents and you ask them questions and you share. Coaching has been such a really great experience for me and helped me grow so much. So thank you for being part of my journey.
You're welcome. And Fran has a question. This is a good one. What were the 3 best things you loved when you were on a team that you brought with you as a team leader?
My spreadsheets, which is Brian. Spreadsheets are awesome. All of my team has their own spreadsheets. We can keep track, we can set goals, we can know exactly how many deals we're doing. Especially for me, and my dad's on the call too, and he's always like, where are we at? What's the numbers? And we're very like driven to our goals. So the spreadsheets have been awesome. The structure of my last team, they really did due diligence for all their listings. They had a schedule on how each listing went on, whether they went to the building department, whether they pulled permits. We're super consistent with that. Brian has all the taxes verified. So I took that from my old team. And the third thing was, I think it was the group text message that we have together, making sure we're always telling each other about our listings and kind of just making sure we're all involved and they know that anything I do, they're part of because they're part of the team.
That's amazing. So for everyone here, I'll say this because I'm your coach. Make sure you send all your Westchester referrals to Jess. She will do a really good job. Someone actually put in the chat that they sent you a referral earlier in the pandemic and they got disconnected and now they need to reconnect with you. So look, we put our Instagram handle in there so they can connect with you on social media. And we have 5 more minutes. What advice would you give people for social media? You do a really good job. Everything has a white border. There's definitely a consistent brand message. I see Caitlin's on here and you guys built out a team one. So Caitlin, why don't you drop your team one in here so that you guys can get some more followers as well.
Yeah, Caitlin does our marketing, which has been awesome. I see Antonio on here. He was a huge part of my growth and advocating for me at Compass. The marketing stuff is be consistent, a little bit of family and dog and, drinks and then houses. It doesn't have to be all houses. I try to do, we're real people. We have real lives. So I think having a little bit of both is important.
Did you ask marketing to make your custom story icons? Nope, Caitlin did.
Caitlin does all of it. I also have a marketing person. I think just bringing people on that are good at what you're not good at. And, Caitlin's been awesome at doing marketing.
All right, guys, one more question if anyone has anything. And if not, we will sign off and we'll see you guys all next week. I have a random question for everyone. There's still 100 some odd people. Who would want to attend if we did a live event? Because a lot of people have asked, hit yes if you'd want to attend a live event. I'm just curious. My team members really don't like it when I do this because this tends to lead to all kinds of surprises for them. So does There's a lot of yeses. Okay. Rachel, surprise. So listen, for everyone out here, I hope you can adopt this mindset of being a lifelong learner, being a sponge, and giving to other people. So I always like ending with this one question. If there's one thing that you could tell somebody to do to grow their business based on your experience, what would it be?
Do the right thing by everybody.
That's it. So in Jess's world, that means save the world all the time in any way you can. Thank you guys for being here. Check out her article on Agent Talk. There's a fabulous write-up that our team put out about her and her journey and everything else. Marina, the answer is like always do the right thing. So thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Hey, everyone.